Have you ever looked at a huge company and wondered, are they really a rock-solid giant or just, really good at marketing? It's a great question, and the answer is actually hiding in plain sight. Today, we're going to learn the language of business health so you can find it yourself.
I mean, really think about that for a second. Beyond all the flashy ads and the cool products, what's the real test of a company's strength? Is it just how much profit they make? Or maybe how much cash they have in the bank? Well, it turns out the real answer is a bit more complex and honestly, a lot more interesting.
And that's where this big idea comes in. The best way to think about it is like a doctor's checkup, right? A doctor doesn't just take your blood pressure and say, you're good to go. Nope, they run a few different tests to get the full picture. And for a company, that full picture comes from 3 key financial documents.
Okay, so our first test is what's called the balance sheet. I always like to think of this one as the company's X-ray. It lets us look right inside and freezes a single moment in time to see the company's fundamental structure.
Now the key word here is snapshot. Seriously, this isn't a movie, it's a single photograph. It tells you exactly what a company owned and what it owed on one specific day. Like, say, the final tick of the clock on December 31st.
And the logic behind it is actually pretty simple. The balance sheet lists everything the company owns. We call these assets. So think cash, buildings, that kind of stuff. Then it lists everything it owes. Those are its liabilities, like loans. And what's left over when you subtract what it owes from what it owns? Well, that's what the owners actually have a stake in. That's the equity. It always has to balance.
All right, so we've got our X-ray. Now it's time for the stress test, the income statement. If the balance sheet was a snapshot, well, this is the video replay. It shows us how the company actually performed over a period of time.
And that is the huge difference right there. While the balance sheet is static, one moment in time, the income statement is dynamic. It tells a story over a whole quarter or even a whole year, and it shows whether the company is, gaining momentum or maybe losing some steam.
The story it tells is pretty straightforward. It starts with all the money the company brought in. That's its revenues. Then it subtracts all the costs of doing business, the expenses. And what's left? That is the famous bottom line, which tells us the most basic story in all of business. Did they win or did they lose? So, our final test is arguably the most vital. This is the cash flow statement. Think of this as the company's blood pressure monitor. See, a company can look super profitable on paper, but it can completely fail if it runs out of actual cash. This statement checks that all-important vital sign.
There's this old saying in finance that I love. Profit is an opinion, but cash is a fact. This statement, it doesn't care about fancy accounting theories. It tracks one thing and one thing only: the hard, cold cash moving into and out of the company's bank accounts.
It literally follows every single dollar. Where did the cash come from and where did it go? This is what reveals the company's true liquidity. In our little health checkup, this tells us if the company has a strong pulse and the energy to grow, or if it's, kind of struggling to breathe. So, we've run our 3 tests: the X-ray, the stress test, and the blood pressure check. Now, any good doctor or any smart analyst knows you can't just look at these results by themselves. The real magic, the real insight, happens when you see how they all connect to give you the full diagnosis. And this is where it gets really interesting. A company's income statement might show a huge profit, but then you look at the cash flow statement and realize it's actually burning through cash like crazy. Or maybe its balance sheet lists all these valuable assets, but are they actually being used to make any money? See? You need all 3 puzzle pieces to see the real picture.
So here it is, the entire checkup in one place. The balance sheet asks about its position right now, the X-ray. The income statement asks how it performed, the stress test. And the cash flow statement checks its pulse, the blood pressure monitor. It's only by asking all 3 that you get a diagnosis you can actually trust.
And listen, this isn't just some clever analogy we made up. This is the absolute foundation of all financial analysis. This combination gives us that comprehensive picture, a real, deep understanding of a company's health and, most importantly, whether it's built to last.
Okay, so that's all the theory. But what does a healthy report card actually look like in the real world? Well, let's take a quick look at a company you might have heard of: Apple.
Apple is just a textbook case of financial strength. Their balance sheet, it shows tens of billions in cash, a huge safety net.
Their income statement, it reveals they keep an absolutely impressive chunk of every single dollar they make as pure profit. And their cash flow statement, it shows that cash just keeps pouring in year after year. All three tests show a company in peak condition.
Okay, this is all great for big shot investors, but why should you care? Well, because whether you're thinking about investing some money, or maybe taking a job somewhere, or even just buying a product from a company, understanding its health empowers you to make much, much smarter decisions.
So I think the main takeaway here is this. What we've just walked through isn't just a bunch of boring accounting. It's about learning the fundamental language of business. And once you know what to look for, you can start to read the story that any company is telling with its numbers.
And that's the real power here. You now have the 3 essential tools for any financial checkup. So the next time you look at a company, go beyond the headlines and ask yourself the most important question. What story are the numbers really telling? I hope this helps you find the answer.